Samuel and I had been married for 30 years, yet we had never made it public. We had agreed that on the opening night of his latest play, Falling Leaves, we would finally tell the world. We had been husband and wife for 3 decades. That evening I planned to arrive at the theater on time, to witness the moment firsthand. But traffic was horrendous. I sat in the back of a cab watching the minutes tick by, my anxiety growing with each passing second. Then as I absently scrolled through my phone, a headline caught my eye. Samuel had made a big announcement to the local news. But the topic? Not about our marriage exposure but about his first love had returned. That woman, Autumn. Back in college, she and Samuel had a passionate love affair. After graduation, they pursued careers in theater together, achieving modest success. But then she moved to Europe and as far as anyone knew, she never returned. Till now. She appeared at the opening night of Samuel's play, Falling Leaves, a bouquet of fresh flowers in hand. She walked straight to the edge of the stage and personally handed them to him. Samuel stood under the spotlight, gazing at her with an unmistakable tenderness in his eyes. The audience erupted in applause. Some were even moved to tears. They called it a love that had endured 4 decades. Me. I sat in the back of a cab watching the rain streak down the window, unsure whether I should still go to the theater, whether I should ruin what seemed like a perfect reunion. For 30 years I had stood in Samuel's shadow. I had abandoned my own career, devoted myself to him, transformed from a young woman into someone with silver strands in her hair. The years of exhaustion had taken their toll on my body. And in the end, what did I get in return? 2 months ago Samuel had told me himself, "Amelia, I think it's time. Let's make our marriage public when the play premieres." I had been stunned, overjoyed even. I carefully took out the blue dress he had given me when we got engaged, pressing out every crease. I made all the necessary arrangements, handled the housework, sent our son off to Germany, so that for once I could dedicate myself fully to this long-awaited night. But as I rushed through the rain, umbrella in hand, my phone rang. Samuel's assistant. His voice was hurried. "Amelia, if you haven't arrived yet, don't bother coming. Samuel's got something urgent to deal with." "What?" I stopped in my tracks. "I don't have much time to explain. So, goodbye." The line went dead. I stood there, frozen, my fingers tightening around the bouquet I had brought for Samuel. Just then a notification flashed across my screen. Local theater star Samuel reunites with his first love after 40 years. An emotional, heartwarming moment. I clicked on the news. The video showed Samuel standing in the spotlight, radiant, holding the flowers Autumn had given him. His gaze never wavered from her, as if the world had faded away, leaving only the two of them. The comments were filled with admiration. Now this is love. 40 years later and she's still the only one he sees. This is more romantic than the movies. And I stood on a freezing street corner, staring at the screen, silent tears slipping down my face. Falling Leaves. Autumn. Last I understood. Samuel hadn't chosen this play for the art, for the audience, or for his career. He had chosen it for her. Even if all he could have was a title that carried her name. Me. What was I? For 40 years, from 25 to 65, I had given my entire life to Samuel. I had walked away from my career in medicine, pouring every ounce of myself into supporting him. 3 decades of devotion. And what did I get? The rain trickled through my hair, blurring my vision. A wave of dizziness swept over me. The bouquet slipped from my hands, landing on the wet pavement. I staggered into a small convenience store and sank into a chair, my body too drained to carry me any further. I had spent my whole life working, sacrificing for my family, for my child. But never, not once, had I truly lived for myself. Why had I let myself become this? Samuel and I were never meant to be part of the same world. He was a theater major, an aspiring actor. I was a medical student. It was the 80s, back when entertainment options were scarce. By day I wore a white coat, making my rounds as a hospital intern. By night I attended vocal classes at the local night school just for fun. Samuel was a struggling young actor at the time. He spent his days playing nameless roles in community theater and his nights working as a part-time music instructor at the very night school I attended. That was how we met. He had one of those effortlessly charming faces, the kind that lit up like sunlight dancing on a lake when he smiled. That winter he showed up at my doorstep, shivering in the cold, holding a cake box in his hands. "This is for your parents," he said. The packaging was from an upscale French patisserie, one I knew didn't come cheap. Samuel had probably spent 2 days' wages on it. He didn't say much. Just set the cake on the table and left. That was all it took for my parents to change their opinion of him. They saw him as sincere, dependable. Before long we were engaged. After our wedding I continued my medical career. A few grueling years of internship later, I finally became a full-fledged doctor. Samuel's theater career was also gaining traction, though we were still struggling financially. He couldn't afford an assistant, hesitated to spend money on a decent suit. I agonized over the decision for a long time, but in the end, I quit my job at the hospital to become his full-time assistant. I helped him memorize lines, scheduled his appointments, ironed his shirts, cooked his meals, managed every little detail of his life, so he could focus entirely on chasing his dream. One night as he sat at the dinner table staring at the dishes I'd carefully prepared, his eyes turned red. He took my hand in his. "Amelia, you've done so much for me. I'll never be able to repay you." I smiled, shaking my head. That's what marriage is, supporting each other. Just like that, 10 years passed. And in those 10 years, I heard Samuel's name tied to Autumn's more times than I could count. They had been college sweethearts once. They broke up. But his fans never let the story die. Over the years, the women by his side only grew more dazzling, and the rumors about him never stopped. So I chose to believe in him. They're just co-stars. It's work. I'm the one he married. Samuel isn't that kind of man. Even when I was in labor, clutching the hospital sheets in pain, he was away on tour. Even when I saw him on stage, looking at another woman with a smile so tender, eyes so full of emotion, I told myself, it's just acting. Samuel insisted on keeping our marriage a secret. "Amelia, can't you understand? I'm at a critical point in my career. When the time is right, we'll make it public, okay?" He said it so matter-of-factly, as if I were the unreasonable one. He told me everything about Autumn, swore their past was long behind him. He pulled me into his arms, his voice a soft murmur against my hair. "I promised, didn't I? I'll take care of you for the rest of my life. Trust me." And I believed him. I thought this was just how our life would be, quiet, steady, enduring. Even if he was gone most of the year. Even if his name kept getting linked to other women. I told myself it was all for our family, that he was working so hard for us. But now that my youth was gone, now that my hair was turning gray, I finally saw the truth. I had spent a lifetime believing in a man who was never mine to begin with. I don't remember how I got home that night. All I remember is that for 2 whole days Samuel never called. Not a single explanation. Not even a half-hearted, "Are you okay?" On the 3rd day he finally came home, dragging his exhausted body through the door. I was sitting in the living room, the TV on, though I wasn't watching. Normally, the moment he stepped in, I'd greet him with a warm smile, ask if he wanted tea, tell him dinner was ready. But this time I didn't move. Samuel changed out of his clothes and walked over, his tone as gentle as ever. "What's for dinner?" "Smells amazing." I let out a soft laugh. This man, he really lived in his own world. Every time he came home, I would wake up early, go to the market, pick out the freshest ingredients and cook a full spread of home-cooked dishes. But after years of dining on steak and lobster at high-end restaurants, did my humble meals even register in his mind? He'd always throw out the same casual compliments. "Wow, no one cooks better than you." But I knew those words were just habit, nothing more. There was a time when they made me happy for an entire day. Now I just found them laughable. I looked up at the man I had stood beside for 30 years and asked slowly, "Sam, do you actually like the food I cook?" Samuel seemed caught off guard. He hesitated, then chuckled, reaching for my hand. "What's this about? You sound like a jealous 20-year-old. I withdrew my hand before he could touch me. "Where did you go after the play's opening night?" His smile froze. Loosening his cuffs, he answered in a deliberately casual tone, "Yeah, I know I told you we'd go public that night, but you were late. So I had my assistant call and tell you not to come. And then..." He frowned slightly. "Amelia, I had urgent matters to take care of. I didn't have time to explain. That was my mistake. Let's not fight over this, okay? If this had been before, I would have given in. I would have told myself that a marriage required patience, that for the sake of our child, I shouldn't hold it against him. But this time I wasn't going to let it go. I repeated calmly, I asked where you went after the play. Samuel finally looked at me, his expression shifting. Annoyance flickered in his eyes. Amelia, are you seriously checking up on me now? We're not kids anymore. Can you stop acting like this? Acting like this? I let out a quiet laugh. Then take a look at this. I reached for the stack of photos, printed screenshots from last night's social media buzz. One by one I laid them out on the table. They captured Samuel stepping off stage, walking side by side with Autumn to a nearby restaurant. They ordered Autumn's favorite red wine, shared a perfect dinner together, and in one picture he was leaning in, kissing her on the cheek. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't throw a fit. I simply looked at him and repeated his own words back to him. We're not kids anymore. Can you stop acting like this? Samuel's face darkened instantly. He grabbed the photos, flipping through them. His expression twisted, the polite mask he always wore slipping away. Amelia, you had me followed? He slammed the pictures back onto the table. Autumn and I were just catching up. Why do you always make a big deal out of nothing? Then he shoved his chair back, stormed out the door, and left nothing but silence behind. I didn't understand. Why is it that some people can do wrong and still be the ones who lash out in anger? And more than that, why had I never questioned it before? The next few days I didn't leave the house. I didn't check my phone. Samuel didn't call. He didn't text. Even the landline remained silent. Was he genuinely upset? Or did he simply not care? It didn't matter anymore. Not anymore. I sat by the window, sunlight streaming onto my hands. For 30 years I had been busy managing the house, taking care of the kids, and preparing Samuel's schedules for his performances. But now I finally sat in silence, sewing a new apron for myself. For the first time in 30 years I was doing something just for me. Then suddenly the phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw Jack's name, my son. Ever since he went to Germany to study, he rarely called. So I was a bit surprised when I saw his name pop up. I picked up the phone. Hello. Mom, did you and Dad have a fight? He asked bluntly. I furrowed my brow. Why do you ask? These past few days, Dad hasn't been posting anything in the family chat. He usually takes a picture of every little thing, like when he buys coffee at the store, and shares it. But for the last few days there hasn't been a single message.